so let's talk about the different ways to pitch media and the different topics to pitch them. You need to have a variety of different themes because you're not going to pitch the same story over and over and over again. Once the Wall Street Journal covers one particular angle of your business, the New York Times is not going to cover it. So you've got to have a variety of different ways to reach out. And doing that on the front end is much easier than trying to think of them as you go. And so sit back and think about ways that you could pitch your business. Is it a business story? Is it numbers driven? Is it data driven? That could be interesting and that might have a certain place. It might also be that you're thinking about trends. And what I mean with trends is not so much the news or the timely hook that we just talked about, but more about a bigger picture. So what's happening around you? What are some other businesses that are within your sandbox? What are they all doing? Maybe you guys, there's a couple of you that are all doing some really cool new green initiative. Maybe there's a few of you that are working together with one particular farmer. Maybe there's something bigger happening that you're just one part of that trend. Could you tell that story? So think about this, right? If 4 businesses came together to pitch one giant story, wouldn't that be a great story? Then it's not just about your business anymore, but now other people are involved with it. If you think about the stories that you're reading in the larger national media outlets, oftentimes it's not just about one particular business. Oftentimes the trend stories are about multiple businesses. Well, what if you could spoon feed the journalists the story and go to them and say, here's 4 of us that are all using this particular vendor and they're doing something really cool, whatever that may be. Okay, that's interesting. I'm listening. And here are the names of the 4 businesses, and we're located all over the United States. You know, maybe these are people that you've met at a conference. Maybe these are people that sit on a national board with you, whatever it may be, but it's a bigger picture story. Let me give you an example because I know that this is hard to digest. We worked with a B&B. And we had gotten that B&B a ton of press, but ultimately we were running out of ideas. You can only do so much with somebody for so long before you start to say, okay, what else is there? What else is going on? And so we said to them, tell us about your area. What goes on an annual basis around you? And they said, well, we actually work with this local hounds club and they have an annual fox hunt and we host the brunch afterwards. And they kind of brushed over it like it was no big deal. And we thought, well, that's interesting. Tell us a little bit more about this event. Well, they do it every year and the local riding group goes out and they get all suited up in their official gear and they have the dogs that chase and they ride on their horses and they go out and they're looking for foxes. They're hunting. And we thought that's pretty cool and kind of a neat story. And so what we did, we had the date on the calendar for that particular year and we reached out to journalists and we said, we want you to come and experience the fox hunt this year. And what we didn't tell them was that, of course, we would be providing accommodations for them at the B&B. But we just wanted to get them to say yes to the fox hunt first. And we carefully picked 2 media outlets that we thought might be interested, one specifically with a food angle and one with just more of the tradition angle of what the actual fox hunt entails. And both of them were interested. So we invited them both to come to the fox hunt. We put them both up in the B&B. They both went out and experienced the fox hunt, and they came back to the B&B afterwards for a brunch with all of the riders and had a meal prepared by the B&B owners. That was our food angle. Well, a year later, the fox hunt was featured in both of those outlets. We actually got the cover story in Charleston Magazine with an 8-page story about the fox hunt and talked all about the experience with beautiful photography. And of course, they talked about the B&B where you would stay if you were going to attend the fox hunt. And the second outlet featured it, but they featured all of the recipes from the B&B that they experienced while they were at the fox hunt. So that's a perfect example of how you can partner with people that are doing something in your area or in your field that's not necessarily exactly what we were talking about for a primary story, but gets you a much bigger picture type of a story. Okay, the other thing I want you to do is think small picture. What's the one story that's happening? And oftentimes we'll find this by talking to our employees, finding out a little bit about them. What's the one thing happening in your business that's really, really interesting? So here's an example. So we work with Kids Bowl Free. Kids Bowl Free is a national summer program. They've got more than 1,200 centers nationwide, bowling alleys, where kids can bowl free all summer long. So we went to NBC Nightly News and said to them, this is a great story for the end of your report where they always do a feel-good story. You know, kids can bowl for free all summer. What better experience and feel good about, being able to give back to your community by letting kids bowl for free. And they said to us, that's great. 1,200 centers is awesome. We want you to tell us what's the one center. Where should we go? If we have to pick one bowling alley out of 1,200, where do you want to send us? So we picked Flint, Michigan, because at the time, Flint, Michigan was suffering pretty bad. The car industry had left and it was just a rough community. And so they went into Flint, Michigan and they taped there and they talked to the families there who, if they didn't have the free bowling, their kids would be on the streets all summer long. There was nothing else for them to do. And that was the one story that they clicked with, that they resonated with, the very small picture of a much bigger picture. So sometimes you want to put the magnifying glass on your business and say, where is that one very special story that will tell a bigger picture story? With the weight loss resort that we worked with, we've had thousands and thousands of successful people over the years that have come through the weight loss resort. But when we talked to the New York Times, they wanted to do a story about longevity. And they found a couple who had been coming for years together, who were in their 90s, that were still going every year to the weight loss resort just to stay healthy. They said, that's the couple we want to talk to. We don't want to talk to anyone else. We want to talk to the 90-year-old couple about why they continue to go back to a weight loss resort. And that's the angle we want to approach it with. So it's not always a direct, obvious reason. It's not always a general reason of why you're reaching out to the media or the themes that you're coming up with. Can you find those individual, unique stories that you can partner and play into? The other great theme that you can look at are top 10 lists. They're everywhere. Those are probably the most shared items that I see on my social media platforms every day. Those listicles, the top 10 places for this, the 10 best coffee in America, whatever it may be. Where can you fit into those and how can you be part of those? And, it's always a matter of timing. There's really no rhyme or reason of how you get featured into those other than you just happen to reach out to the reporter at the right time. But a good place to start is reach out to the reporter that you see writes those stories and get on their radar and introduce yourself and just say, I'm here if you're working on future top 10 lists about X, Y, or Z. I'd love to be a resource for you. But those are great themes to be part of too because people share those lists over and over and over again. So the number of people that are seeing those stories is amazing and the notoriety that you can get from being included in one of those stories is incredible and can do great things for your business. So your worksheet for today is to come up with 5 pitch themes. What are the different topics that you can be reaching out to journalists with? Are they small scale? Are they large scale? Are they top 10?